Welcome back, everyone. I really hope by the time you are watching and hearing this that the draft FPL game has been launched and we are sinking our teeth into the watch list, and also that the Draft FC site is beautifully up and running and giving you loads of exciting features which we can share in the middle of next week. But if it's not, say, the content can't wait any longer and we will carry on. So welcome back to the Draft FC podcast, the podcast website and YouTube channel dedicated to all things official Draft FPL. My name is Mitch and I'm your host for another episode in our Road to Draft Day series 25-26. And this episode forms part of a pairing, sort of companion episode to the previous one, looking at some of the new summer transfers. So if you haven't seen the one before, then once you finish this, go back and have a listen to that one or give it a watch. In that one, I was having a look at 7 of the more high-profile signings that we've already seen this summer. And in this one, we will go the other way and look at some of the more hidden gem transfers that may have escaped the headlines. But obviously for us draft managers are almost just as important as those record transfer summer busting moves, because we can only have one of those players in the league, and the chances are you're only going to get one, maybe two of those guys at most. So where we sink our teeth into things and our bread and butter of trying to get the edge are in those middling and late rounds to try and come up with some hidden gems that our other managers may have overlooked. And of course, new players entering the league or players making moves within the Premier League can represent opportunities when we've put the work in and the research, and maybe some of our league rivals haven't. So very much the same format as the last episode. I'll go through each player in turn, kind of give them a bit of a star rating in terms of where I think their value is on draft day. Of course, not an exhaustive list, and the summer has still got many weeks to go, but these are 7 names that are already slotting into my draft rankings. Now, on that note, I will be doing an episode in the coming week or so on my top 20 draft rankings. But if you want my complete draft ranking list, where I rank my top 240 players, then you will need to be signed up at draftfc.co.uk if you're not already. But so if that is something that would interest you, as well as everything else we'll have to offer, which hopefully once the game is live and we've managed to get it all straightened out, I'll actually be able to demo soon enough, then head over there and check that out. But let's get into these picks, and we're going to start with a couple of goalkeepers. And the first one is one that in fact, they're both players that we're familiar with. The first one is George Petrovic, who we will have known from his Chelsea days. Now, what you may not have known is that last season he had a very successful loan spell at Strasbourg in the French Ligue 1. He's just signed for Bournemouth for £25 million, which is actually a pretty expensive transfer when it comes to goalkeepers, and we'll have a direct comparison to that on the next slide. But if we look at last season, he played just under 3,000 minutes. His save percentage rate was 79%, which puts him in the 98th percentile for goalkeepers. And an interesting stat of keepers is basically adding up the XG of all the shots that they faced, and then subtracting the actual goals that they let in. So you can basically work out how many extra goals they did or didn't allow in. And for Petrovic last year, he managed to keep out 10 extra goals compared to what the XG would have suggested he should have let in, which is very good. I think that ranked number 2 in the French league, and that put him in the 95th percentile. Very good with his feet, good short-range passer and receiver. The only main caveat here is that his Chelsea stats from 23-24 were far less impressive than this, which is the main reason for taking off Star, because overall I am a big fan of his. The other thing that some people will have trepidation about is the fact that that Howson has left and Kerkez has left. So there are 2 holes to fill in the Bournemouth defence. I'm not too bothered about Howson leaving, because I think Senesi and Zabani, unless they sign anyone else, are still a pretty formidable centre-back partnership. Kerkez is a bit of a hole to fill, but, we like our goalkeepers to face some shots. So he's definitely a goalkeeper I am quite high on. Another one who I am fairly high on, though not to the same extent, just 3 stars for this move, is Kelleher, who has just joined Brentford from Liverpool for just £18 million. So I'd say this is phenomenal value. If we're calling Petrovic 25 mil, I think Kelleher for 18 is really, really good value. And I'm surprised that we didn't see a bit more of a bidding war between other Premier League teams. The issue here is what state Brentford are going to be in this season, given that they've been, or have been and are continuing to be stripped for parts. You know, the one thing that so far hasn't been disrupted, though, is their defence, with Collins remaining in place. Very important to marshal that defence. And they were not the most adept at preventing chances last year. They ranked 14th in terms of expected goals against. But as I said, doesn't always make for a bad FPL goalkeeper, because we like them to keep clean sheets, but we also want them to make saves. So there should be plenty of potential there. 50% clean sheet rate in the last 12 months. Obviously not a million appearances to account for that. It's still pretty good. And obviously always getting heralded as the best number 2, the best backup keeper in the world. Well, now he's got a chance to see whether he can actually be the main man for a Premier League club, and be very interesting to watch, and another goalkeeper that I would happily pick up on draft day. Into defence, all the cool kids are talking about this hidden gem at Brighton, and it's new left back Maxime de Cuyper, who comes with an impressive record for goal involvements with former club Bruges. Non-penalty expecting goal involvements per 90 of 0.45 off a career average of 0.31 is phenomenal for a fullback. Now, we are talking about a league that obviously isn't one of the top 5, but the Belgian league is, on paper at least, pretty much on a par with the Portuguese league if you look at some coefficient rankings. And Club Bruges themselves sit above many clubs from the top 5 leagues in UEFA rankings and other coefficient rankings themselves. So it's not a farmers league by any means. Now, initially I thought, okay, it's a fun pick, but Estupiñán is first choice there. You know, he'll play a little bit of a part. Then the reports break that Estupiñán is potentially heading off to AC Milan, and indeed that deal has now gone through, with Brighton pretty much making back exactly the transfer fee they've just paid for De Cuyper from that sale. So showing that they have faith, they're able to turn De Cuyper into yet another highly coveted Premier League asset. Now, Brighton kick off the season with a home game against Fulham before travelling to the Hill Dickinson Stadium in game week 2 for what will be the first competitive match played at Everton's new home. So 2 games Brighton will be looking at with positive ambitions and opportunities for him to show us right from the start that he could actually prove to be a very reasonable mid to late round pickup for managers looking for a bit of high risk, high upside. And I can imagine he's going to be one of those guys, depending on how many drafts you participate in, could end up being really annoyed to see one of your league rivals pick him up right before you had your eye on taking him. So yeah, a very fun one. I just think he'll be a very, very popular draft manager pick, and a very coveted pick on draft day for us all. Out of defence, let's move up north to Wolves. We've got a couple of Wolves assets, a couple of Wolves midfielders to talk about here. Now, with the loss of Aït-Nouri and Cunha, who we mentioned in the last episode, Wolves entered the summer market really needing to add creativity and guile behind their figurehead, which we think should continue to be Strand Larsen. Now, there are 2 players on the list now who I think could really complement each other and complement Wolves really well. And the first one is John Arias. Now, he is a very experienced attacker, more than 200 appearances for Fluminense over the last few years, with more than 100 goal involvements in that time. He's incredibly versatile in terms of sort of historical starting lineup positioning, but also incredibly versatile given the style of play that Renato Gaucho has set that team up with in recent years. That manager, by the way, look him up if you don't know much about him. I didn't, but he's been the manager of that club on 6 different stints now, which is mental. But anyway, Arias just exudes South American flair. He can drop into deeper pockets to link play, he can take on his man, and is also pretty comfortable taking up wider positions too. The Brazilian domestic league runs through a calendar year, and we of course saw him scoring at the Club World Cup. So he'll arrive very much ready to hit the ground running. This is not pre-season as far as he's concerned. So and there's a growing contingent of Spanish speakers at Molineux now, so that should make settling him in a little bit more comfortable, including former teammate Andre, who has become a pretty mainstay in central midfield there. The only doubt for draft managers is whether him catching the eye actually translates to FPL points. I suspect, given Wolves have Manchester City in game week 1, will pretty much be put off a lot of their assets on draft day, and that's very reasonable. But he could be a player that gets considered more and more as the season enters September, particularly if he has a few eye-catching cameo moments before then. And then the second player is Fernando Lopez, who joins from Celta Vigo. Now, we've obviously just set the scene for Wolves, so I won't go over that again. But Fer Lopez joins on a near identical fee to Arias from Celta Vigo. But the situation couldn't be more different. Previous player we were discussing is very much ready-made. Lopez is an out-and-out prospect. The numbers are lacking, but the consensus from Spain is that La Liga is losing a potentially very exciting player. Only 21, just 17 senior appearances for Celta Vigo. He's unlikely to be on many draft boards and be on many manager radars, not least because I think FPL priced him at like 4.5 or 5, I can't remember, but he's low down on the shopping list. Now, he is a proper old-fashioned number 10 who prefers to operate centrally. The pairing, though, with Arias, I think could be really good for his development, and especially when you consider you've got experienced heads in Joao Gomez and Andre behind, and then say a front three of Arias, Lopez and Strand Larsen to emerge is what I expect, with then more supporting roles from Minetzi, Guedes and Huang, any of those that are still around come the start of the season. So yeah, definitely one to watch. It's 3 stars because I don't think he's going to really hit the ground running, and he's not someone that I think is worth a pick up on draft day. But I'm just trying to sow the seed now so that when I mention him, sort of in the game week 4, game week 5 preview, the little bell jangles, and you can go, oh yeah, he is. Yeah, I remember looking him up. He could be pretty decent, and yeah, we'll see how he goes. Next is a familiar name, which is Simon Adingra, who has joined Sunderland from Brighton for a fee of around £21 million. Now, this feels like the kind of signing Ipswich would have made last year had they been in Sunderland's position this summer. He brings obviously proven Premier League pedigree, still has room to improve and be more assertive in games, but I mean, again, it's great business for Brighton, who I think probably fairly unlikely to be able to give him enough game time to really drastically raise his value much more. And they've still managed to extract a pretty decent fee, which is more than double the £8 million that they bought him for. His numbers aren't as good as I thought they were, actually. When I looked it up, I was surprised. I know he doesn't get huge amounts of minutes from his cameos, but I thought he was slightly more potent than he was. But anyway, non-penalty expecting goal involvements last year was 0.43, which is still very good, and a sort of career average in the Premier League of 0.37. Now, if he can replicate 0.43 last year to this year, that will be just what the doctor ordered as far as Sunderland are concerned. Providing he stays fit, he'll virtually start every game, and if he can get somewhere north of a dozen goal involvements this year, he'll have done his bit to try and see Sunderland defy the odds and survive in the Premier League. Only 3 stars because the previous minutes are limited. There are a lot of new moving parts coming into that Sunderland team, but given they start off as underdogs in nearly every fixture, I think he moves the needle ever so slightly more in their favour, but they are really going to be up against it. And as we saw last year, for newly promoted teams, scoring goals is easier said than done. And then the last player on the list, and we always love a new forward in the game, we'll welcome them all with open arms, is Tieno Barry, who joins Everton for around £28 million from Villarreal. Last year, just over 2,000 minutes, 11 goals, 4 assists, non-penalty expecting goal involvements per 90 of 0.6. So really solid numbers, but still very young. I've put on the slide for those listening, Everton signed a good striker, ! Because that is what it seems like. They've finally jettisoned Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which I think is for the best all round. Be interesting to see where he ends up, actually. But yeah, Barry looks like he should be their new main man. Beto's been solid. Beto's been okay, but he's just not been able to find his scoring boots with anywhere near enough consistency to stake a claim. I think they'll give Barry a go with it right from the off. Now, he's 6'4", and last season won 67% of his aerial duels. So he is a big lad. He's actually a lot quicker than he looks. I've put on there as well, he's deceptively silky and quick. You watch any of his goals, he looks like he's moving far too quick considering the frame that he's pulling along. The other thing to say, he's worked his way up through the sort of league ranks very quickly. He was in the Belgium second division for a year, then moved to the Swiss Premier League, then to the Liga, and then so each for just 1 year at a time, and now he's gone straight up to what is the biggest domestic stage of all, the Premier League. So we'll have to see how he can do. But from an Everton perspective, he arrives very much at a crossroads for them. Shiny new season to start trying to fill with memories. There's still, McNeil's there, and Jai sort of does it now and again, but they're sort of crying out for a real talismanic figure, and you wonder if Barry could be where he could be that man. I mean, again, because of all the facts I've said already, he will have a reasonably good stock on draft day because he'll be a starting number 9, and I think that's reasonable. The Everton squad, in my opinion, is a bit better than it looks and is a bit better than it has been performing. It's just really been crying out for a competent striker. And the way he plays, by the way, if you look at all of his 11 league goals from last season, all first-time finishes, whether that's with his feet or with his head. So he is very much an instinctive finisher in the box, which, when you've got McNeil and Jai, players like that around, that's exactly what Everton need. It's just a no-fuss, strong, decent finishing forward. So a good one to watch, and definitely one that will be up on our draft boards. So we will leave things there. Now, you should be seeing this after Tuesday the 29th. That's when I'll schedule this episode to come out. So I'm hoping that by now the game was launched yesterday and all of our rankings have been nicely updated and uploaded into the site ready for you to peruse. So head over to draftfc.co.uk if you're interested in looking for those, as well as everything else we have on offer. Go there and check it out, and it'll also let you access to our exclusive members-only Discord channel where you can get lots of more personalised advice and discussions with all of the managers, including myself, that are in there lurking pretty much 24/7 with all the time zones that we've got signed up at Draft FC. If you're on X, give us a follow at draft_FC as well. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the content. And as ever, given we're in pre-season mode, any comments, questions in below, I will respond to. And for those listening on the audio, make sure that you are following on whichever podcast platform you're listening to as well. So as it is, I'm guessing Tuesday, it may be Wednesday by the time you're watching this. The plan is for Kieran and I to have a sit down towards the end of this week and do a full team by team preview. That will of course take hours, so we'll be split over several episodes. It really depends how long each one runs for as to how much we carve them up. But I know we've done that before during the season and people have liked those. So hopefully we can get some value and just do a real overview so that by the time draft day comes, you will have at least heard of all the players that are being discussed or are being picked, so that none of them escape your radar. So that should be good fun. So subscribe just for that, because that's going to be some good draft. All of this, of course, is looking through the lens of Draft FPL. So all of those fringe picks, hidden gems, we'll be discussing all of them. So that'll do for the new transfers for now, and we'll see how we look by the end of the summer. I'm sure, given the rate of change we've seen already, that we're going to see quite a number of changes. I think we could be on the verge of a bit of a striker merry-go-round as well, with the likes of Isak, Visser, potentially Nico Jackson. So we'll have to see how that shakes out too. So no doubt I'll have to revisit and do a bit of a transfer roundup in a few weeks as well. But we'll leave that there for now. Hope you're enjoying your summer. Hope you've managed to log in and start filling with a watch list by now. And until next time, stay shook.